Totally watched. The most interesting on the internet.
Hello everyone, my name is Jessica Clarkson. Welcome to the Totally Watched What If episode, What If the Oasis Hadn't Broken Up? In the previous episode, titled Totally Watched, What People Think of It, Oasis Band Reunion Tour 2025. Our beloved co-host, Peter, went through the history and return of Oasis and what do fans and people think about it. In this Totally Watched What If episode, we discuss what would have happened if the Oasis band hadn't broken up. You probably all know the Oasis band and how awesome they were and still are. Many of us felt devastated when we heard the band was breaking up. What if Oasis hadn't broken up? How would the world of music have changed? Would they have become even bigger than they already were? Would their music have changed? These questions and many more will be answered in today's episode, so make sure you stick around until the end. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any more content. As a quick reminder, Oasis will be making a comeback tour in 2025, returning for the first time since 2009. As stated in the previous episode, most fans are looking forward to going to the shows. They hope that this time the band's internal unity will last, and band members will stay together and not break up again. But why did the band break up in the first place? Before we get into the meat of the video, let's talk a little bit about why the band broke up. The Oasis band had a rough patch in the early 2000s after their album Heathen Chemistry. In 2005, they released their fifth studio album, Don't Believe the Truth, which featured a more stripped-down sound compared to previous albums. Despite its success, internal tensions within the band, particularly between brothers Liam and Noel Gallagher, continued to rise. By 2009, the friction became too much and Noel announced his departure from the group, citing exhaustion and burnout. Without their main songwriter, the remaining members decided to disband rather than continue without him. How did the breakup of Oasis affect fans? The breakup of Oasis had a profound effect on its fans. Many fans felt a sense of loss, as if a part of their life was missing. Some fans were so devastated by the split that they stopped listening to music altogether for a time. Others found it difficult to listen to Oasis music without being reminded of the band's breakup. Some fans even blamed themselves for the split, believing that if they had been more supportive of the band, Oasis would still be together. Overall, the breakup of Oasis left a lasting impact on its fans, causing them to grieve the loss of their favorite band. If the Oasis band hadn't broken up, it would have meant everything to their fans. For many fans, Oasis was more than just a band. They were a community, a family, a way of life. Since the band's formation in 1991, Oasis had released 5 studio albums, all of which had gone multi-platinum. Their music had become the soundtrack to countless lives, providing comfort, solace, and joy during difficult times. The thought of never hearing new Oasis music or seeing them perform live again was heartbreaking to their devoted followers. If Oasis had never split up, their fans would have been able to continue sharing their love of the band and their music for years to come. They would have been able to make new memories together at concerts and through new album releases. The pain of the split would have been eased knowing that the band was still making music and touring. But sadly, Oasis did break up in 2009, leaving their fans heartbroken. But let's get into the topic of the video. What if Oasis hadn't broken up? If the Oasis band hadn't broken up, it would have been a great relief to their fans. It would have meant that they would never have experienced the pain and disappointment of their favorite band splitting up. Fans would have continued to enjoy new music from the band and seeing them perform live. Overall, the lack of a breakup would have created a sense of happiness and satisfaction among the Oasis fan base. How much would the fan base have grown if the band hadn't broken up? The Oasis fan base was already massive when they broke up in 2009. They performed to packed stadiums and were followed by devoted fans in the UK, the US, and beyond. During their heyday in the 90s and early 2000s, Oasis were one of the most popular bands in the world. They were so popular that their sales exceeded millions of albums and headlining major festivals. Their blend of Britpop, rock and roll, and working-class anthems resonated with a wide audience. Had they continued making music and touring, it's likely that their fan base would have continued to grow. New fans would have been won over by their catchy tunes and charismatic stage presence, while existing fans would have remained loyal and brought their friends to concerts and events. However, by the time they broke up in 2009, their popularity had waned somewhat. This was due to a number of factors, including internal band tensions and substance abuse. It's also possible that the band's popularity would have waned over time as musical tastes and trends changed. If the band had not broken up, it is likely that their popularity would have continued to decline. This is because it is rare for bands to maintain their popularity over a long period of time. Additionally, Oasis had already achieved mainstream success, and it can be difficult for bands to continue to produce commercially successful music once they have reached the top. However, it is also possible that Oasis could have continued to produce popular music if they had stayed together. This is because the band had a strong songwriting team in Noel Gallagher, and they were able to adapt their sound over the years. Ultimately, it is impossible to say for sure what would have happened if the band had not broken up. When Oasis broke up in 2009, they were at the height of their popularity. They had a massive global fan base, and their music was more popular than ever. Since then, both Liam and Noel have gone on to have successful solo careers. This suggests that the Oasis brand still holds value and that their fan base remains strong. Furthermore, the recent announcement of their reunion tour in 2025 shows that there is still a huge demand for Oasis music and that their popularity has not waned over time. In fact, the tour dates are already selling out, which is a testament to the band's enduring appeal. Therefore, it's likely that Oasis's popularity would have continued to increase over time if they had not broken up. Their music is timeless and their fan base is incredibly loyal. Would Oasis be as legendary without breaking up? Oasis are considered to be one of the most legendary bands of their generation. They have sold over 75 million records worldwide and have been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Oasis were at the height of their powers when they broke up, and they were just getting started. If the band had continued to make music, they would have produced even more iconic songs and albums. It is possible that the band would be even more legendary today if they had not broken up. This is because the band's breakup was a major event in music history, and it created a huge amount of publicity for Oasis. However, Oasis were a legendary band, but their status was largely due to their breakup. When a band breaks up, it creates a sense of nostalgia, and their music becomes even more popular after they stop touring. This is because people associate the music with good times in their lives when they were younger, and the music becomes a part of their identity. Oasis knew this and played into it by releasing greatest hits albums. If they hadn't broken up, their music wouldn't have become so popular again in the 2010s and 2020s. They probably wouldn't be considered as legendary if they were still making new music today. Would the Oasis band's music have evolved or stayed the same if the band hadn't broken up? Based on the Oasis band's career up until their breakup in 2009, we can speculate based on the trajectory of their previous work. Throughout their career, Oasis had a tendency to experiment with different sounds while still remaining true to their core sound. We can see that they had already gone through several changes in their music style during their career. They started off with a more indie sound and then moved towards a more mainstream rock sound. For example, their album Be Here Now was a departure from the Britpop sound of their earlier work, while still retaining the anthemic melodies and guitar-driven sound that defined their music. If Oasis had continued on this path, it's possible that their later work would have been even more experimental and diverse. If they hadn't broken up, it's likely that they would have continued to evolve their sound. It's also possible that they would have continued to make music in the same vein as their final album, Dig Out Your Soul. One possibility is that they would have become more experimental with their music, trying out new genres and sounds. Another possibility is that they would have become more polished and radio-friendly. Ultimately, we can only speculate. What is certain is that Oasis was a talented band that was capable of creating music that resonated with millions of people around the world. How did the breakup affect music business circles? The breakup of Oasis had a significant impact on music business circles. The band was one of the most popular and successful acts of the 1990s and early 2000s, and their split in 2009 sent shockwaves through the industry. The band was one of the biggest acts in the world, and their sudden disbandment sent shockwaves through the industry. The news of the split made headlines around the world and generated a huge amount of media attention. Firstly, the breakup resulted in a loss of revenue for many businesses. Oasis was a major draw for concert promoters, merchandise sellers, and record labels. Music executives, promoters, and managers were all affected by the news as they had worked with the band on various projects and ventures. Many of them were concerned about how the band split would affect their businesses and the future of the music industry. Some saw it as a sign of declining album sales and the end of an era for rock music. Their split meant that these businesses lost a valuable source of income. Secondly, the breakup created a power struggle between the two Gallagher brothers, Noel and Liam. Both brothers went on to pursue successful solo careers, but they have been engaged in a bitter feud ever since the split. This feud has had a negative impact on the music business, as it has prevented the band from reuniting. Finally, the breakup of Oasis has led to speculation about the future of British rock music. Oasis was one of the last great British rock bands, and their breakup led many to believe that the genre was dying. In the years since their split, few bands have been able to achieve the same level of success. Others saw it as an opportunity for new artists to emerge and take Oasis's place. Ultimately, the breakup of Oasis had a mixed impact on music business circles. While it generated a lot of media attention and speculation, it also raised concerns about the future of the music industry. How much profit would there be if the band had continued to this day? If they had continued making music and touring, it is likely that they would have earned even more money. The band had a devoted fan base who would have continued to buy their records and attend their concerts. It's impossible to say how much Oasis would have grossed if they'd continued making music and touring. However, we can estimate based on their past earnings. In their heyday, Oasis was a hugely successful band critically and one of the most commercially successful bands in the world. According to reports, they earned an estimated £1 million per show during their 2009 tour. At that rate, they would have earned tens of millions of pounds if they'd continued touring. Additionally, the band would have earned royalties from their record sales and merchandise. It's safe to say that Oasis would have continued to be one of the most successful bands in the world if they hadn't broken up. However, it is impossible to say for sure how much money the band would have made if they had not broken up. The music industry is highly competitive, and it is difficult to predict how well a band will do in the long term. Additionally, the band's finances were affected by internal squabbles and legal issues. What would have been the impact in music business circles if the band hadn't broken up? Oasis had a huge impact on the music business when they were together. They were one of the best-selling bands of all time, and their albums and singles regularly topped the charts. Their success led to lucrative endorsement deals and a global tour schedule. If they hadn't broken up, they would have continued to be one of the most important bands in the world. Their influence would have been felt in every corner of the music industry, from record labels to concert promoters to music journalists. They would still be one of the top touring acts in the world, grossing millions of dollars per show. Their records would still be selling like hotcakes, and their merchandise would be flying off the shelves. Oasis were a band who pushed boundaries and broke new ground. They weren't afraid to experiment with their sound, and their live shows were legendary. If they had carried on, they may have become even more influential and innovative. Oasis would still be one of the biggest draws in the music industry, and their presence would be felt in every corner. From record labels to concert promoters, everyone would be clamoring for a piece of the Oasis pie. Instead, their breakup left a gaping hole in the music industry, and their absence has been felt ever since. Would Oasis have become as big as the Beatles if they hadn't broken up? Oasis had all the makings of becoming as big as the Beatles. They had the talent, the looks, and the charisma to capture the hearts and minds of millions. They also had the advantage of living in an era where music was more accessible than ever before. But perhaps most importantly, Oasis had something that the Beatles didn't have: a sense of humor. While the Beatles were known for their wit, Oasis took it to a whole new level. They were able to make fun of themselves and the music industry in general without taking things too seriously. This endeared them to fans who saw them as more relatable and down to earth. The Beatles were one of the most successful bands of all time, and Oasis had the potential to reach the same level of success. Both bands had a knack for writing catchy tunes, and their music resonated with people from all walks of life. However, there are a few key differences between the two bands. The Beatles had a more experimental sound, and they were more willing to push the boundaries of popular music. Oasis, on the other hand, were more of a traditional rock band, and their sound was more rooted in the past. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide whether Oasis would have become as big as the Beatles if they hadn't broken up. How would it have affected Oasis if they had become the biggest band? By continuing, Oasis would have made them the biggest band in the world. There's no doubt about it. Their music, their style, and their attitude were a perfect combination that appealed to millions of people around the world. If they'd never broken up, they'd still be at the top of the charts today. Just imagine how many more albums they would have released, how many more hit singles they would have had, and how many more sold-out tours they would have done. Who knows, they might have even won a Grammy or two. The thought of all the music they could have made is enough to make any Oasis fan's heart soar. Maybe now with the comeback tour, we'll find out what the band's future holds. What do you think? Tell us in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this second episode of Oasis. To know what people think of it, what would have happened if things were different, or something else interesting, remember to subscribe and click the bell icon. That's the only way we can bring you this interesting news. I would like to thank Rex Form Solutions, who made this video possible. Thanks for watching the episode. This is Jessica Clarkson. See you in the next episode.